Hey guys, thanks for joining me. And if you like what you see, please subscribe.
What's up, YouTube? I am here today and I've been sharpening this 8020 Demco. This is the one with the diamond texturing on the handle and the 3V. Absolutely love this version of it, and I've also got a lynch clip on it. It wasn't necessarily dull, but I've been using it for a long time, and I thought it was time to finally put the edge I want on it and to make it a mirror polish. I'm going to show you how I do that, and I hope that you enjoy this little video. It's also going to be a review basically of the KME system and how I sharpen things, and I might talk about the Demco as well as we go along. And I'm going to give you some demonstration and tips about how I make my knives as sharp as humanly possible. First off, let's talk about what the KME system is. It comes in this box here, and I'm in the process of using it, so it might, it's a little messy in here, but when everything is put away, it comes apart. And what it is it's a fixed angle system, a guided system that lets you get the exact angle that you want. There are a couple of different components to this. First off, you've got this stone holder. I have made one upgrade to this, and that is I've put this knob on here. The KME system, the basic system, I believe costs $200. I've done a couple of upgrades. One of them is I went to Granger, I believe it was, and I got this knob here, and I replaced the knob that was on here, which was basically just one of these guys here, with this more substantial one. It makes it easier to hold and to draw, and I'll show you in a minute why that makes sense. The basic one that I got came with 4 stones. It came with it came with the 50 grit, which is called the Beast, and then 150 or 140, 300, and 600. And these are diamond stones. And you can see, I'll show you the Beast here. You can see, you know, this one's pretty great. So this is for reprofiling. The 50 you're only going to use on a knife that you get that has an inconsistent angle along the length of the blade, and you want to reprofile it. Some blades I've gotten, let's take my latest 940 Benchmade. At the base, it was like a 24 degree, and at the tip, it was like an uneven, like 16, and the whole thing needed to be reprofiled. So I took the Beast and I used it to reprofile the blade. And then from there, I went down to all the different, through all the different steps to get it to a fine, fine edge. I will explain how that is done in a minute. So this holds the stones. You loosen this and you pop it out, and there is the stone holder. Right now I'm on the 1500. This Demco I've already taken through the other layers. I did not use the 50 because I wasn't reprofiling this blade. I did change the angle slightly, but not enough to warrant using the Beast. The Beast removes a lot of material and leaves a lot of scratches on the bevel, and it takes a long time to go through the process when you use the Beast. So I only use the Beast or the 50 grit in certain circumstances. I try to use the 140 as much as I can when I start, but it's nice to have the Beast, having said that, because sometimes that's what you need. So I'm on that part. So this holder then clamps into this, or screws into this, and then you've got this collar here, and I'm gonna show you why this is used here in a second. The other couple of things I'm going to talk about, and later on in this review, I will show you how they're used. I also have an Arkansas stone, which I highly recommend getting, and this is going to help me polish the blade. And then I also have a strop, basically leather, kangaroo leather with 4 micron emulsion. Now I also have a leather strop that I have 2 micron and then 0.2 micron on the leather strop as well. And I can use that paddle strop as well after I'm done with this to get it down to basically 0.2 microns of smoothness, and that's where you're going to start to really get to your mirror finish. Now, some people use lapping films. That's a whole nother kit that you buy in addition to this, and then you get your true mirror edged, and that's really cool. It's a long process. Like, we're talking about adding an extra 45 minutes to an hour to get that true mirror polish, and that's great. I'm going to show you though that with these that I have, the Arkansas Stone and the 4 micron, I'm going to get so close to a mirror edge. Unless you hold the 2 knives side by side, you won't even be able to tell the difference. And it saves a lot of time. It's a lot cheaper, and I think it all around. I mean, mirror edges are for show, and if you're and even it's doing this Arkansas and the 4 micron strop is for show. But having said that, I'm also kind of practical, and I'm like, I want it to look cool, but I don't necessarily need to spend that extra time and dough to get there. So let me show you how this works now. I've got here a Sharpie, which is a very important tool. Another thing that I keep, by the way, is I keep a little journal here, and every time that I sharpen a knife, I write down in there the angle that I found it at, the date that I did, well, the date that I did it, the type of knife, the angle that I was at, and what I went to. So here is the Benchmade 940 I was talking about. I'm sorry, it was generally at around 19 degrees, but it varied throughout the length of the blade, and I took it down to 18 degrees. In general, what degree I'm going for depends on what kind of knife it is, what kind of steel it is, and what purpose I want it to serve in my life. So yeah. Also, how much am I willing to reprofile it? So that's another good piece of kit to have. Another thing that you really want to have is a Sharpie. So here is the setup, and I have the stand that goes with it. Ooh, Arkansas Stone. Why don't we put you over here? All right, so here is the knife, right? And here you can see I've clamped it in here. This wing nut here has opens and closes this jaw, and then I close it on here. The way that you know where to put this jaw is that you want to make an imaginary line in your head from the tip of the knife to the back of the blade, and you want this to be parallel to that line that you've drawn there. Now, sometimes if you have a different blade, that line is going to be a lot different. This is this shark's foot blade is very straight. I mean, it's not quite straight, but it's very straight. Where you look at this knife here on this beg letter 2, you can see the line from here to here is more like, whoops, like that, right? So in order to sharpen that, you would want your clamp to be more like that. Now, if you're new to this, you might be thinking, why on earth is he using a Sharpie on his blade? Isn't that crazy? Well, really cool thing about Sharpie that you might not know, but on steel at least, you can take a little bit of alcohol, and this is just your plain rubbing alcohol, and you can, take a rag or whatever, and you can clean it right off, and you'll never know that you ever had Sharpie on there. So that's why you use Sharpie. So I have talked about my tools before. There's a separate video for that where I was changing scales and I showed my toolkit. So if you're interested in looking at some of the tools and how I've set myself up, you can check that out. In the meantime, though, the other thing you do is once you've got this clamped set up and in, I also mark where I've clamped this, okay? And the reason I do that is because this could accidentally shift while I'm doing things, right? So this is a handle, and I often actually use the handle while I'm sitting on the couch. And what you do is you put this in here, and you travel from the base of the knife to the tip of the knife and back by going like this. And the angle here is always the same. I don't trust these markings on here. I actually have an angle gauge, which I'll show you in 1 second to measure the angle, so I have a very accurate measurement of it. But you start here, you go up. I'm doing this a little bit faster than I usually do it, and then I come back down to the base, and that's one pass. When I'm reprofiling, starting with the beast, what you're going for is having a burr on the opposite side, and you can feel it when you go up and down a lot along the blade. You can actually feel a burr or a little piece of metal folding over on the other side and developing there. When you have that along the length of the blade, then it's time to switch it over. What you do is you push this in a little bit, and now this switches over to the other side, and then you do the other side. If you're doing the beast to start out with, you're going to, sometimes it depends on, in general though, 16 to 20 passes is going to reprofile your blade. And so you would do, you would count and you do 16 or 20 or whatever until you get the burr on both sides. Then you flip it over and you do it on the other side, the same amount. And then you make sure you have the burr. And then let's say we did 16, then you use the same stone and you go down to 14. 14 on both sides, then 12 on both sides, then 10 on both sides, then 8, 6, 5, and then at 5 I usually go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I finish up by lightly going over the edge on each side and just doing an upwards motion and lifting the blade up and not doing the down part. And then I switch it over and do the other thing. And then I switch to the next stone. So from the 50, I'd go to the 140. Now, once I've reprofiled the blade, all I do is 10 passes. So I start at 10, and I go 10 on both sides, 8 on both sides, 6 on both sides, then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I have already taken this down to the finest stone, and I am now going to go on time lapse, and I'm going to do the finest stone here, and then I'm going to transition, and I'm going to show you how to transition from the diamond stone to the Arkansas stone to the strop, because there is a couple of little tricks in there that you need to know in order to get a really good edge. One of the things I haven't mentioned is one of the other reasons you use a Sharpie is because you can take it and you can put it on the edge that you're sharpening. And now that's black, yeah? And I put it in here, and now what I can do is I can go here and I can make sure that I'm removing the material exactly where I want it, and the angle is matching, and it is matching. So every time I change a stone, I always make sure that it's doing that. Now, if the blade was too far up and the angle was a little wrong because it slipped somehow, then the angle was wider, then I would only remove the Sharpie from the tip of the blade. Whereas if it was too shallow of an angle, I'd only remove the Sharpie from the shoulder of where the bevel starts for the edge. Whew, a lot of words. All right. The other thing I might have forgotten to mention is that this collar here, what it's helping me do is that it's not making sure that my stone doesn't go off and scratch the blade material itself. I should also mention that you need to be super careful. Some people they tape off the handles and where the sharpening, especially if it doesn't have a sharpening choil like this does, they tape off the blade so that you don't accidentally damage the handle material or the little nubbin here on the steel. Words escape me at the moment. I'm sorry. So that's it. So now I'm going to go to a video of me doing this in high time and fast time lapse. Hey, words, not my friend today. I'm going to go to time lapse, and then when the time lapse ends, I'm going to talk a little bit more about how to find the angles and transitions to the next stone. All right, thank you. And we're back. So that was exciting. Now we're going to switch to a different stone. A couple of things I failed to mention there is that I'm not putting any pressure down on this when I'm doing this action. There's no pressure there. I'm letting the weight of the stone and everything do it by itself. And when I get to the edge and the tip, I'm being really careful to not go too far and accidentally round the edge there, or to accidentally go onto this little metal part right here past the sharpening choil. This sharpening choil is there so that you can sharpen right to the edge and not, you know, if this blade continued to here, then it would be really, really, really hard to sharpen all the way. That's why some people get really annoyed with Spyderco's, because Spyderco never has a sharpening choil. Like right here, you see this on this mule, there's no sharpening choil there. So you're gonna end up scratching this or just not sharpening the end of your blade, right? So one of the most important tools that you're going to need for this endeavor is going to be this angle cube. This angle cube is basically like a level, but it measures an angle. Right now it's on error because but you'll see it measures an angle very fine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on the base here. And then when I put it on the base, it gives me a number, and it's not quite 0 because what it's on isn't quite, but I'm gonna zero it out. So now it's 0 there. And then I'm going to put this in here, and I'm gonna put the angle finder on here and see what it is. It's 16.45, which is basically what I started at, and I will try to okay, well, it changed minutely when I pressed hold, and then it changed. So but if I'm here, yeah, so about 16.45. I had been going for 17, but it ended up being 16 and a half, which is fine. This Demco came with a screaming sharp edge at around like 15, and I'm actually making it a little bit more of a wider angle because even though it's 3V and it's supposed to be really tough and everything, I just want more of a workman's knife quality sharpening on it. Having said that, though, you can already start to see that this is coming out screaming sharp and almost a mirror polish already, and that's just with the 1500 blade. I will say that you do not need the Arkansas stone or what I'm about to do. It's all superfluous. It's already as sharp as it needs to be. It's already going to give you stitches if you mishandle it, and serious stitches, like lots of stitches. If I take a piece of paper here, and of course I'm not going to take it out of the clamp, but I mean, the thing is already screaming sharp. The steps I'm doing now are not to make it sharper. It's just to make it look nicer, honestly. So you don't need that. So 16.45. Why did I need to measure that? Well, because this stone here is slightly thinner than the Arkansas stone. The Arkansas stone is a little bit thicker, which you can see right here, right? So if I were to put this stone in the holder here, it would change the bevel or the angle that we're trying to go for. So when I put this on here now, and I take my angle cube, and I put it on here, we're now at, and I'm going to, oops, I didn't want to do that. I'm going to put this on the space and make sure it's still zeroed out. It is still zeroed out. Put it on here. So we're at 16.1. So we're not matching the angle, and I want to make it, I want the Arkansas stone to be flat against that bevel of the edge so that I can get the most effect out of it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to loosen this nut back here, and I'm going to adjust it to be slightly more up until I get to as close as I can to 16.45. Ooh. Oh, that's perfect right there. All right, now how am I going to check that? Did I do it correctly? You have guessed correctly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Sharpie and do this right here. And I'm going to put a little bit of the juice on here. So why a fixed angle system? This is mineral oil that's in this little jar, and I'm going to put a little bit here. The Arkansas stone needs a little bit of lubrication. Why not use a whetstone? Why use this fixed angle finder? Because I am a little afraid, honestly, of using a whetstone. I would rather just have I like the precision of the KME system. I know exactly what I'm doing. It's repeatable. I can write it down in a journal. I know exactly what I did, and I can do it again that way. Or if I didn't like the results of that one, I can go back and do something different. So now I went over that edge, which is getting really close to mirror, and I put a little bit of mineral oil on this stone, and I'm going to see if I've matched that angle, and it'll be pretty obvious. I'm just going to go down once, and I'm going to see how close to that am I doing. And I'm going to do a couple of different test spots. It looks almost perfect. If anything, I could raise the angle on it. Oof, no, I don't know. I think it might be perfect. I'm going to test the other side now. So the Arkansas stone acts as basically a, so the biggest, or rather the finest grit on the diamond stone is 1500. This Arkansas stone acts as 3000 grit. Yeah, that looks really good. All right, so now I'm going to do 10 times up and down each side with the Arkansas stone. So I'm going to do 10, 8, 6, and then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, just like I did before with the 1500. And then we're going to switch over to the strop. So again, we're going to go to light speed. Okay, and we're back. So I just finished up with Arkansas stone. While I was doing that, I realized one thing I hadn't failed to mention is that sometimes you have a knife and it has a thumb, if it's a thumb flipper, if it has a thumb stud, you need to remove it. I had to remove it from here because this was in line with where the KME was coming down, and I would have shaved off a corner of it. And in fact, I've bought a used knife before off of eBay where it had a corner shaved off, and that was because the person before me didn't know what they were doing with their KME. The KME system I got was the basic one that came with the 4 diamond stones. And I got the base. This base comes separately too. So I ended up buying this base so I could have somewhere to mount this on it. I didn't have this flopping around sometimes. Honestly, I usually don't use the base, except for a place to keep the handle grip, pistol grip, at a place when I put it down and I want to do something else for a few minutes, right? In general, I'm usually holding it on my hand on the couch. Makes more sense while I'm filming to use it though. So I also bought the Arkansas stone separately, also on the KME website. The angle cube I got off of Amazon, and the strop, the kangaroo strop, and the emulsion I got from KME. Altogether, all in, this entire setup, I bet, is around $300. So the emulsion fluid, you don't need to add the emulsion every single time you do it. And you can see it's pretty black right now. That blackness actually comes from so much steel, being used on so much steel. I can clean this up by using just a little bit of alcohol and getting some of this off. I'm not going to do it right now, however. I'm going to put like a couple of drops on here, and then I'm going to spread it around. And actually, you don't want to have your strop, you don't want this to be wet, and you want to use very little. It takes very little emulsion to work. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to clean off the rest of the alcohol, or rather, I'm going to use alcohol to clean off the Sharpie from the blade, because we no longer are going to use Sharpie. If I were to use Sharpie with this kangaroo strop on here, it would just damage more of the, it would just damage the strop and, get gunk on there. You want to be really careful when you're doing this. This knife right now is sharper than a razor. So, running a cloth across it, you could easily, if you get the wrong angle, you're not paying attention, go straight through the cloth and go right through your finger. Ask me how I know. All right, so there we go. So this is another moment for the angle cube finder. I am going to put in this strop. Now this is actually thinner than the diamond stone and therefore much thinner than the Arkansas stone. The diamond stone's in between. This is a little bit thinner. So I'm going to have to end up lowering the angle or the bevel on this to get it to work. I'm going to put it in here. We were at 16.45. And now I'm going to put this in here. And in general, when I do this also, you know, you want to, I put mine in the middle of the stone. And then I'm going to zero this out again. I'm going to turn this on and put it on the base first. Zero it out. And then put it on here in the middle. Right now we're at 17.5. So this has to drop in thickness substantially in order to get to the same angle. So that's 16.35, 16. Just got to play with it. Hold it real lightly, because even you pushing down on it a little bit can have adverse effects. That says 16.5. Oof. 16.4. 16.35, 16.35. I should have just stuck with the 6. Oh! All right, I'm going to stick with 16.4. Now I've tightened this down, and where are we at? 16.4. Okay, I'm going to stick with that. That's going to be close enough for me. Super hard to get it's the right thing. The reason why I don't necessarily care just as much about being absolutely precise is because this actually has some give and take on it. So exact angle doesn't matter. So now we've gone to the 4 micron. The 4 micron is going to act as basically about 6,000 grit. And the thing about this is you never want to push up while you're on it. You actually only push down, lift, and then down and lift. And again, I'm going to go across this whole thing 10, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 on both sides. See you on the flip side. Okay, we're back. All right, so theory, we're done. Taking a look at this really carefully. Sometimes this is where I will get really dorky and I will pull out my jeweler's loop to look at the edge. This is a cheap old jeweler's loop you can find on eBay. It has 2 modes. It has ultralight mode and just a plain white light. So I'm going to turn it to white light, and I am going to look at the edge and see what it looks like. I don't know if I can get this to focus for you or not, but I will try. So you can look at it, and the cool thing about the jeweler's loop is you can actually see any kind of nicks or any areas you missed. So excuse me while I take a look in my eye, and let's see what I see. I see a pretty much perfect edge. I'll flip it over to the other side now and check that out. How much damage did I do to the knife? So the sharpening choil took a couple of little hits. I see one area of the knife. One area of the knife. Now I wonder if that just needs to be cleaned off. Sometimes that's probably just a little bit of grease or micron emulsion leather. So maybe it would have been smarter to clean it off first before I looked. All right, so yeah, that's the KME system. Do I like it? Yeah, it's a fixed blade system. Oh yeah, that cleaned it up. All right, it looks really good. So what's going to happen now is I am going to take this out and I'm going to clean it, and I'm going to reinstall the thumb stud. I'm going to loosen this guy up from the clamp, and then I'm going to install the thumb stud. And then I am going to take either a video or a picture and talk over it and show you how it looks. How it looks as far as the edge is concerned, if I can get a really good shot to show you how much of a mirror edge it is. Before we do that, there's a couple of things I can do. Number one is we can just do the old paper test. Yeah, I mean, it looks really good to me cleaned up here. I know that it's super sharp. It was already sharp when we tested it before at 1500, and now we've taken it to about 6000. And so before, the Demco was cutting very smoothly. It felt a little gritty when you were cutting it. Now it's just like, I mean, it's just super, 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 super sharp. And the 3B steel that this is made out of, in theory, should keep this that way for months and months and months of hard use. And all I'll need to do is to take my leather strop and to continue to strop it up to make it, to restore the edge if it ever gets too much abuse on it. My strop, I think what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to strop this up, which will effectively make it closer to a 12,000 and then a 24,000 grit polishing on this. And then I will show you what that blade ends up looking like. Thanks, guys. Let's go on to the next step. All right, I'm back, and I actually haven't done what I said I was going to do. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you how I put everything away back inside this really cool, great case that they include in the KME sharpening system. So I put all my stones here in order over here in this, and this comes with the system. And then I put my 5 micron there. I take this handle, I tighten this up here. I take this off. I want to make sure that I keep this lock nut on the rod, and I keep my collar on at the height that I need, and I put this in here. Now this doesn't seat all the way down now that it has this guy here, but that's not going to matter. And then I put this in diagonally over here. My Arkansas stone and my strop go over here. And then I take, from the base, I take this off, put that in the bottom. My journal is in the very bottom here where I've written down what I've done and the date and everything. Put that on top, this sideways, and now this is ready to close up. And there we go. And so then now everything's away in this nice handy dandy little case that I need for my KME sharpener. The angle cube I actually keep in my tool chest of toys that's over here on the side. All right, thanks. Hey friends, I'm going to try this one more time. All right, so here we are. I have this knife. I am chagrined to say I could not find my paddle, so I wasn't able to do the last little bit of shining up of the edge. However, it's still extraordinarily sharp. So here we're going to take this piece of thin, very thin paper here, and you can see it. It will not only cut a straight line, but also very much a curved line. So that's pretty cool. And then also it will shave my arm hair. Oh yeah. And last but not least, I'm going to take up this camera here. Excuse the shaking. And let's see. Can you see the reflection of the letters and stuff? I think you can. Well, the sun is not helping me right now. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, KME system. It's a great little system. It's good for fixed angle sharpening. I've seen people who get really into the stones, and they are able to also sharpen their knives at a 17-degree angle pretty well through having a lot more dexterity than I'm willing to have. I find it easier and less, well, I don't know if it's less time consuming or not. It's just a different method. If you're more into using your dexterity and stuff like that to sharpen on the stone, go for it. If you think the KME system is right for you, I would recommend it. There are lesser systems out there that don't cost $200, and I can't say much about them other than you get what you pay for, and KME is American made. So, with that caveat, I would do what you want to do. And of course, the Demco AD 20.5 with the mid-tech gear on it and these textured titanium scales is my favorite knife currently. And I did post a video about why the AD Demco 20.5 is my current favorite knife. And you can look up that. All right, thanks guys. Have a good one, and I'll see you next time on Sharp Ends. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.